things that have come out just recently. There's a lot of stuff we talked about. Lee Harvey Oswald, they made him into a patsy. He was part of this assassin team and so forth. But he wasn't a shooter. He was there at the scene, and evidently they have video now, or they've had video for a long time, been hiding it from us, where he was close to the limo during the shooting. So they actually have video of that, and we're going to play a little clip of that. But before that, thanks guys for coming in again. This is a great time. James, we're so glad you're still hanging in there, and you can still speak. Although you don't want to show your face right now, we're going to keep you behind the scenes right now. But you're going to be speaking back there. And Jim Scott.
Thank you for having us today, and I want to say hello to you and to your audience, all the listeners, and hope they find it interesting today.
Absolutely. And Jim.
Yes.
Jim Scott.
Oh, hey, brother, how you doing?
I'll say James for you, and I'll say Jim.
Jaco's trying to talk to Jim Scott.
Yeah.
Hey,
Too many Jims.
Yeah, go ahead and speak, Jim.
It's really interesting when we have Jim Manning on as well, and it's 3 Jims.
I know, right?
Yeah.
It's a beautiful day in Central Virginia today, and I'm really looking forward to the call. Your audience needs to get a pad of paper and a pen, because we're going to give out some websites and some information that's going to be critical that they may want to be involved with. Those that maybe don't have a copy of Primary Target JFK already, or there's another thing that it really hasn't been available much in the past. It's an autographed copy of the DOJ interview, and it's titled, Did James Files Kill President John F. Kennedy? And this is like 90-page DOJ interview that validates that he's the grassy knoll shooter. And you can get like an autographed copy from Pam. And then the JFK, also, but she'll give the website and everything. There's a share and donate thing on their webpage, and that if they're ready to take a note, here, we'll pause here in the near future, and the other book, which really, I actually Pam wrote a book called To Kill a Country. And there you go. I mean, what an awesome book. And you can get an autographed copy from James now. And the one that's nearly impossible to get is harder to get than the book Regicide. But To Kill a Country, they're just basically not available. I found this one on eBay, and I got it pretty cheap, but they're like Regicide. Some copies of Regicide are selling for $400 now. And this To Kill a Country, if there was one on eBay, I imagine it'd go for $200 or $300, at least. And, but, if you want a copy of the DOJ interview, I don't know, when did that happen, Jim or Pam?
Well, that was the first was Confession of an Assassin.
1994.
Yeah, 94.
Yeah. And your DOJ interview, when did that happen?
That was in 94.
Oh, okay. All right. But anyway, so it's been around, but it wasn't available to the public. And
right.
He's able to make copies of it now, and the cover page.
It was a transcript of the Confession of Assassin video.
Okay.
And the manuscript, it's got the side notes and everything where the government looked at it and checked over by a MSC Griffin.
Yeah,
and
that's right.
It verifies a lot of things.
And the Kroll Agency.
They charge, I think it's $90,000 or $100,000 to investigate me. And MPI picked up the tab on that because they wanted to know it was for real or I was bullshitting them. And so they said, investigate this man from one end to the other end. Yeah.
Well, there's a lot to talk about. We're going to let you kind of decide one way or the other what you want to do. And Michael, if you want, I sent you some pictures to kind of guide the conversation, but there's a lot of stuff that I sent a list to you. And if you want to bring those things up, and James can just talk about it. And
let's start with that one video with Anna Paulina. So we were talking about that before the show, and that kind of like leads us into, current events, I guess, if you will, and how things are starting to move in the direction that we've always tried to get them to move into. Of course, a lot of people have spoken out about this over the years, but this is probably one of the better things at this point that we've seen that hopefully can get more involvement. So this was it says NBC News primetime says that NBC has a secret tape that shows Lee Harvey Oswald near JFK's vehicle when the assassination took place, which would mean he wasn't the shooter. What do you say about that, James?
Well, I've always said he was the shooter because we have a police copy of the parapet test that was given to Lee Harvey Oswald. And there's no way that he fired a shot from a rifle that day.
Wow. So I know that like a day or two before that, he was showing you around. You've talked about that in the past.
Oh, yeah. We spent 5 days together.
5 days. Wow.
Yeah. Because I learned all the side streets, back streets, railroad crossings, the times the trains would cross in case we was involved in a high-speed chase.
Wow.
I didn't want to go down the street, have a train crossing the tracks there and get blocked off. I wanted to know everything. I didn't want to run down a dead end street.
Yeah. And give you guys some insights. That's the way when I was in Special Forces, SEAL Team 6, the highest level of Tier 1. And when I was working for the CIA, we would get briefs by guys like that all the time. We would come into a country or for a target or a mission or whatever, and someone would brief us, and then we would conduct the mission. So that's pretty much what James is talking about right there. So James is pretty much involved in, and I've seen these groups over my lifetime in the military at the highest levels and in the CIA. There were groups like James, assassin teams, and so forth that would come in and conduct missions. So I saw them over the years. So he was working for the military. He was working for the government. Now, I know a lot of people think that, he's an evil man, but that's not the case, guys. He was not. He was part of a very highly trained at the level that I was at the very highest levels, and probably went through some of the same training that I did. And that's the way the military, there's a parallel military and a parallel government that's running. And they, incorporate guys like me sometimes, because I would. Now, James, did you have regular military support some of your missions in the past?
And some of them, yes. When I worked in Vietnam, and also when I was in the Middle East and Pakistan, working out of there, because the main road in Afghanistan got their supplies come through Pakistan there.
Yep.
And we was trying to shut a lot of that down.
Wow.
And I didn't like the Middle East, and I didn't like working there.
Yeah, it's not a fun place, but I worked there a lot myself in both of those countries as well.
I will take the jungle any day over that.
Yeah, well, yeah, definitely. So let's look at this video, and then maybe we can discuss a little bit about Lee Harvey Oswald.
Okay.
And, the Patsy.
Actually has a video that's never been seen before. We're actually going to be sending a letter requesting that from NBC because it allegedly shows Oswald near the vehicle when the assassination took place, which means that he couldn't have been the shooter. So again, we're tracking down all this information. But look, there's even a CIA document that came out that Mr. Morley pointed out that actually said that the CIA never bought the lone gunman theory. And so I think the American people had an inclination as to what we were saying, but we never had the hard evidence until now. And so it's important to note that in a free and fair society, how could you operate or have an agency operating in the shadows? And so kudos to President Trump, also Director Radcliffe and Tulsi Gabbard for pushing for this transparency. It is going to be generational changing that they've done this. And we hope to bring forward legislation to ensure that this never happens again for future generations to come.
You're saying NBC has been keeping this tape of Oswald under wraps?
Correct. In fact, Director Stone actually told us that he was showed this tape, that it was a secondary copy, and that he said that this could blow open the entire JFK investigation. What I will also tell you, though, Jesse, is he said that NBC's been very, very much so guarding this tape. And so I believe that that tape belongs to the American people. We are going to be sending a letter asking for that tape. And I would encourage everyone to ask NBC to release that tape to the public. It's important, not just for our investigations, but so the American people know the truth as to what happened with John F. Kennedy.
All right. Well, I think they will release it because I believe the president will probably put it on Truth Social pretty soon. All right, Congresswoman Anna Paulina
well, hopefully
Luna.
Fox promotes it. Yeah.
There you go. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend.
All right. What are your thoughts, guys?
Well, I put it this way. I was with Lee Harvey Oswald that week, and I've always said that Lee Harvey Oswald never fired a shot.
Mm-hmm.
Lee Harvey Oswald was innocent of that. But everybody keeps saying Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone and Bob, I needed the shot and this and that. So it's like I got on the back of the book, 100 years today, they're still going to say Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone and there was no conspiracy.
Not if we can help it. So,
and I got that in writing on the back of my book.
that's that because there's a lot of control of the history and so forth, and that's unfortunate. Jim Scott, what do you say?
Hey, there's a guy, I understand his name. I think his name was Billy Lovelady. He worked in the school book depository, I think. But if it's the video that I'm thinking of, and they're referring to this particular case, some JFK researchers have debunked this video, saying that the guy's name is Billy Lovelady. Some people are saying that they, that maybe photoshopped the video or something like that. But if it's not that video and it's clearly Lee Harvey Oswald in the crowd along Elm Street watching the Kennedy assassination, obviously he was not on the 6th story. Most people believe that because he was seen by a police officer in the 2nd story lunchroom, the lunchtime was between 12 and I guess maybe 12:30 or whatever time they had. But there was a woman eating her lunch in a car that watched Jimmy take the shot.
Yeah.
In the parking lot. So there were people that was their lunch break. Some of them chose to go out and watch the president drive by, but you have to keep in mind he was more than a half an hour late. He was supposed to have been through there like at 11:30 or something like that, and he was going to be at the Trademark at noon for that luncheon where he was going to make the speech about the Roswell and the UFO stuff. And so maybe, I'm not sure which video because I haven't seen it, but I guess if they release it and show it and it's obviously Oswald, it's going to totally change the thing. But you would think that since 1994 that you've got the Grassy Knoll shooter explaining in detail how Kennedy was killed. Why do they need a video showing the Lee Harvey? Almost all these stories the government tells, they keep going back, and the beginning of the story starts like that. We're going to research whether Lee Harvey Oswald had a co-conspirator.
What's that, Pamela?
Well, the woman's name was having lunch. Her name was Constance Perochet Taylor.
The woman in the car eating a sandwich.
Yeah, she was eating a sandwich.
We found out through Michael Brown.
And 7 hours
died a couple of years ago.
Yeah, just a couple of years ago she died.
Yeah,
she died August 24th of 2016.
Yeah, so here's this woman that was an eyewitness that saw Jim take the shot. What else do you need?
Well, they want to control the
I was
narrative.
afraid to tell because she thought she would die like everybody else.
Yeah.
Sure.
Now, when Dick Clark was alive, they did an interview with me, and he had made a special as a miniseries. Like, I forget how many weeks it took, 6 weeks or 10 weeks it took, but each miniseries was like a 2-hour deal, and he was going to air it on TV. And the government told him if he aired it, that they would pull his license.
You know,
And
Dick
so-
Clark, you know, the American Bandstand and, you know, the New Year's guy, that Dick Clark.
And also a year and a half, 2 years ago, the FBI was being sued because they had a film, because they filmed everything that day. And true or false, I don't know for sure, but I was informed that I was on that film that they had me on the grassy knoll. And I don't know what happened to the lawsuit. I don't know if it's still going or not.
Well, Chana Willis's father was a master chief in the Navy, and he was like in charge of some kind of top secret photographic unit. That was his MOS. And he had taken, he had, in his career, had been involved. He went with Admiral Byrd to the pole for Operation High Jump. He was with the generals on Guam when they interviewed / interrogated / tortured the Japanese generals, wanting to know where the Japanese gold was at the end of World War II, and then hung them. Chana's got photographs of that.
Wow.
Yeah. And he was in Dealey Plaza, and just like Zapruder, he filmed the JFK assassination. And that's probably the best film of all of them. And it's in the possession, if they haven't, I don't think they've destroyed it, but it's in the possession. It's in the CIA archives, I understand. And only a handful of people get to see it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing. Deeper insights. Let's jump into those photos that we're talking about, and then we'll go into some other details. Let me see, get them and pull them up here.
Pam
Right.
and Jim, you can't see the photos, can you?
No,
Okay, I'll tell you what it is when they come up,
okay.
and then we can generate conversation.
Very good.
If it shows right in here, you can see it. Got the Berrien
Okay,
Boys picture.
The first picture is the Operation 40 group in Mexico City when you're with Felix Rodriguez.
Right.
You want to talk about how you got into Operation 40?
George Bush Sr., he recruited Luis Posada Corrales and me. We were the first two to go into that group. And it was supposed to be an intelligence group where we gathered intelligence. That was the cover story. But it was a worldwide assassination group, which meant we could go anywhere and get anybody we wanted, that they wanted done.
Government
Can you-
sanction.
Yeah. So there you go. You have Bush Sr., who would eventually be the head of the CIA, probably for all the great work he did for this parallel government, and you got recruited by him, and other people got recruited by him. So
Right.
his culpability in this murder and all the other murders, if you want to go there as well, he's top of the list.
Hey,
Well, a lot of
another
people
thing-
don't like George Bush Sr., but I like the man because, like, when this was down there in Florida together, he told all of us, no matter where you men are at, he said it could be moved by an airplane. You will have it in 48 hours, I promise. And he never let us down.
So why was it? So let's jump back. So here's the recruited group. Lee Harvey Oswald was part of this. No,
Pardon
he
me?
was separate.
Lee was not a member of Operation 40, was he?
No.
Yeah, that's right.
That's good to know. Now he worked in Russia, and he was trying to get. I would assume CIA got him there somehow to gather.
Black flight, and he went into Norway, I believe.
There we go. All right. So it did. I guess he didn't get enough information from him, so they brought him back.
Well,
to
the Russian wouldn't believe the story that he told them because he was sent there to give them disinformation.
Yeah. Wow.
Because Lee worked on a spy base there in Japan.
The Stoogie.
Incredible. Wow.
So anyway, the Soviets, they didn't want to leave. And basically speaking, and what I understand is they gave him a ticket and sent him and Marie back to the United States. Maria, she was the colonel's niece, I believe.
Wow. And I think she's still alive, isn't she?
Yeah, she was last I heard, which is a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I know people that have spoken with her. So they say she's a really nice
Paper
person.
towel.
What do you want to know?
Towel.
Hey,
All right. Jim Scott, you got anything on this?
this photo. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
This photo also links the beginning with the end. The three guys on the left side are Felix Rodriguez. James was with him in Bolivia when they captured Che Guevara. That picture's coming up. The next guy is Porter Goss, and he was ended up being the director of Central Intelligence for George W. Bush. I'm sure at the direction of his father to control. Mm-hmm. And the third guy, interestingly enough, is Barry Seal.
When they found out that Porter Goss was part of Operation 40, they made him resign from the CIA.
Oh, wow.
His
That's interesting. Yeah.
Thing.
Yeah.
Because he was linked to the
third
Operation
guy.
40. Yeah.
Impressive.
The third guy is Barry Seal. The third guy is Barry Seal. And later, near the end of our story tonight, James spent some time flying with Barry Seal. You want to tell him what you did with Barry? And that links Hillary Clinton and the event that made James go to prison.
Okay, I'll answer that whatever you want me to.
Well, you want to tell him about the link between Barry Seal and flying into Mina and Hillary?
Well, Barry and me both was flying weapons, hospital supplies, ammunition, anything that the rebels could use, clothes, money. We flew down there to them in Central America and South America. And on the way back, we flew drugs back in.
To Mina, Arkansas.
To Mina, yeah.
Where Bill Clinton and Hillary.
Sometimes Barry and me flew together, and sometimes he flew his plane and I flew my own plane.
Wow. So,
and when I was flying, one time there, sometimes I'd unload there, and I'd leave the plane on the runway. They'd take it and they'd unload it, and I'd go have lunch, and the guys would pick me up and take me out, and come back. And then one day I walked up to the limo, I opened the door, and who was in the car? Hillary Clinton. And now she grew up in Park Ridge over there by me. She was a cheerleader. I knew her. We dated a couple times. She was a little younger than me, and but she liked the car I had and this and that. And so we went out a few times, but I never had any sexual affairs or nothing like that with her. I never even kissed her.
You went out with
her family was the close associates of the people next door, which belonged to the outfit. And you do not make marks or stir up muddy water within the organization of Chicago. You treat the people with respect. So anyway, so I asked Hillary, you want me to kill Bill, or do you want Bill to kill me? And she just laughed, and she's looking at the state trooper in the front seat. And she said, don't worry, I own him. But the reason that she put a contract on me was I was one of the last people that could put her on the runway with a plane load of drugs.
In Mina, Arkansas.
In Mina, Arkansas.
Bill was governor, and she was first lady of Arkansas.
Huh.
Yeah.
So
she hired the police officers to kill James that ambushed him, and he was in that gunfight with him that ended up landing him in jail. That's why I wanted to link that first picture with the kind of the end of the story.
There's the Clinton body count. There's a whole bunch of
I need to turn my motion detectors off. I'll be right back.
Lots of dead people.
My landscaper's here.
That's incredible. So that's another claim to fame that you have, having dated Hillary Clinton. That's crazy.
Now, when I got out of prison, I met a friend of mine who was associated with the outfit, Nick Keller, and a few other people. We was having breakfast together. And so one guy that was with us, he went to the White House at least once a week. So he's told to tell Hillary that Jimmy Sutton, which was the name I used back then, that Jimmy Sutton said hello. So the guy went to the White House and he saw Hillary and there's a bunch of other people around, I guess. And he said, oh, by the way, he said, old friend of yours, Jimmy Sutton, sends his regards and says hello. She didn't answer him. She just turned and stalked out of the room.
Wow.
And I blamed the CIA for quite a while there. I thought that they sent somebody, and I sit down and I wrote a letter to the CIA. And I told them, I said, I'm very disappointed. And I said, I thought I was worth a hell of a lot more than $50,000. I said, you send somebody for that price or that little bit after me. I said, I'll eat them for breakfast and send them back to you in a shoebox. And this gave me a reply. And they said they never tried to kill me. They said that was somebody else. And so then it was leaked to me. One of the guys come to see me from the agency. And he said it wasn't the agency. He said it was Hillary.
Wow. She had a lot of power.
Yeah.
When I was in the CIA, we were using basically these passports. They were diplomatic
The
passports.
Clintons are tied to the Bush family.
Oh yeah, and so we would travel back and forth, overseas with these diplomatic passports that gave us immunity and all kind of stuff to do the stuff that we were doing. And when she became the head of the State Department, she canceled our ability to get those diplomatic passports. So she was screwing with it. She had a lot of power, obviously. She was screwing with the CIA back then.
Oh,
Wow.
yeah. She pissed me off over Benghazi.
Yeah, she's
When
definitely.
she refused it, when she didn't send them people help, that really aggravated me. I was in prison at the time. But it pissed me off, though.
Yeah, so Bush Senior was supporting and protecting you guys. What happened with Hillary coming after you like that? Was he out of the picture or something?
No, he was still in the picture. But he got me off for the one shooting. But right before that, I got stopped by the state police or the local. I think it was the locals. Anyway, I forget the little town there, and it was on Route 12. And I had to shoot out there. And George got me, Bush, he got me off on that one. No problem. But the second time when the Ostertag, when he took around 1 inch from the heart and damn near died, they couldn't do nothing for me on that one. Ostertag was a 12-year veteran. Gary Bittner was a 10-year veteran. They're on the forts in Round Lake Beach, Illinois. And I've got copies of the police report and everything else on it. And my trial, the whole case, my case is in one of the books that Pamela wrote. And the way they handled me in court was tragic itself. Of course, I really had nothing coming. But I didn't like the idea of being wearing a jumpsuit when I should have had on civilian clothes. And I didn't like the way they put me at the table where the stenographer sits. They had the stenographer in the witness chair, and they had the thing blocked up so the people couldn't see a chain and shackle and bolted to the floor. And then they had all the extra security in the courtroom on me. They had 6 of the prison guards from Stateville. They had 6 regular coppers in there. And all of them heavily armed with machine guns and shotguns.
God.
So
They were messing around.
it took the jury 3 minutes to find me guilty. Let me put it that way.
That's not prejudicing the jury
Paid off jury.
at all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was.
Now,
that
the
was-
government don't want to
Flip on to the
release no
second
records on me, but I got a lot of police reports that confirm who I was and everything else.
Tell them you had 200 cops on the payroll.
Yeah. I had over 200 cops on the payroll. I ran chop shops, loan sharking, murder contracts,
Yeah.
hijackings. I did a lot of that.
Chicago, Illinois.
Wow.
Like
And to give your story a little validity, when I was in the CIA, we were training, not me particularly, but some of the guys that I'd worked with were trained. They were bringing in, weapons and, ammo and all that stuff like you guys were doing, you and Barry Seals was doing down in South America. We were doing that in Afghanistan, in Pakistan, all kind of places. So we're seeing local militia groups. And then, so that was the up and up. That was the legitimate stuff. And then we saw these guys that were running the drugs, and we couldn't get involved in that. We saw that. We're like, what the heck is going on with that? And they're working right next to us in their own compartmentalized thing, running drugs. It was insane. So there's like this parallel thing, like you talk about, James, where, no, we didn't do that. We weren't involved in that. Well, that's probably the good CIA. And then there's the parallel CIA, which, as we all know, is maybe not so good and probably not at all.
Paramilitary.
Yeah. So
we were known as mercenaries, and they changed the name, I believe, in '77. They went to contractors.
Exactly.
They renamed it.
Yep.
Same people, just a different name.
Yep. So Ground Branch was doing a lot of stuff, and I was a contractor. Ground Branch was a contractor. Were contractors for the CIA. So that gives them deniability, all kinds of crazy stuff. But
oh yeah,
just like you, they can hang us out to dry in a heartbeat. If something happened, they would wash their hands.
Plausible deniability.
Exactly. So it's you think that you're working for the good side, and they're going to take care of you, but you're going to.
They still you're expendable.
Absolutely. Barry Seals, expendable. And they'll make something up and destroy your credibility. Oh yeah, he was stealing money from us and all kind of crazy stuff. He was running his own program. Probably wasn't doing any of that. So
well, I was disappointed in the movie they made about Barry Seals. Believe me, very disappointed. But I lost the team in Iran, which I won't go into details on it at this time.
Wow.
But Pamela was with me. We went to this one New Life church there when we lived in Chicago on Damon Avenue. And so they learned a little bit about my past. And we had a lot of church shootings at that time. They had asked me if I would come in one night and meet with their people and give them a few details and help them out with their church security and what they should do and everything. And I said, yeah, I don't mind. So that night, Pamela, thank God, she went with me to this meeting. They did not ask me one question about church security. The whole thing was grilling me on what happened in Iran. And I would say only 5 people know about what we were doing there and what went down. People, when I say 5 people, I mean by Keys and Washington.
Tell them what the whole thing was about.
And that's what they interrogated me about. And they got you just like
in Iran.
Yeah, don't worry about the facility on there. I ain't getting into that. Anyway, Pamela says you want to know about how we got saved, or you want to know about this or that, or whatever. It was all about church security and stuff. They said no, we ain't interested. We only want to know about Iran. And I was thankful that Pam was with me, because if I would have went home and told her what happened, there's no way in hell that she could have believed me. But she heard it, and she's right there and with me when it happened. They grilled me for over an hour, and I got up and I finally walked out and told them I had no part of it. I wouldn't talk to them. I wouldn't give them one answer on it.
And like James is talking about, that's the way I am too. There's operations that you're involved in, which are legit, and people are still possibly involved. So kudos to James, because he still keeps it on the down low about that. Doesn't reveal. I'm the same way, but I will talk about the bullshit. Right. So, and that's what you've been doing. So good for you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Zach Sheldon, the FBI agent, admitted that when they interviewed a lot of people, on the bottom, I don't know, it's page 50, 51, or 52 at the bottom. One of the side notes they got at the bottom of the page was where they had kidnapped me, tortured me for a couple of days, and they admitted they failed to break me to speak of any crime that I had been involved in. And I tell you what,
right?
But when I wrote a note, had them call my wife up and tell them to go get Gorilla and to get me out of the hospital.
Oh.
Gorilla was my lieutenant. He come and got me. He picked me up out of the wheelchair. They told him, we want to keep him for observation in the hospital. Gorilla said, no. He said, taking my boss home. And so he's sitting in my living room with a Remington Model 870 with a folding stock on it. And this folding stock said law enforcement only. He sit there for a week, and I kept gun cars at the end of the block and in the driveway. The Broadview police came by, see how I was. They said, if you need more help, more protection, they said, we'll send a couple squad cars over to stay with you. And it took me a week before I could even talk when Gorilla carried me home. And I was black and blue from one end to the other end.
Wow. Incredible.
And you haven't had any fun until you had your belly button tickled with an electric rod from the inside.
FBI.
And that was the FBI. And Zach Sholin admitted that he was been there, but he took no part in the torture.
And then you said, well, does that make it right?
So Zach Sholin and I became very good friends. We talk regular on the phone. We go out for dinner when we get together. Either I'm in Texas or when he was up this way north. We, like I say, we became very good friends. But Zach, I respected him because he never lied in court. He didn't plant no evidence on me or anything.
There's a picture of Zach later that I sent you, Michael. And also the primary thing, that the reason that my understanding that they kidnapped Jim and to question him was they wanted Charles Nicoletti's ledger that had the list of something like 66 names in it that as a team that they had hit for the mafia, one of which was John F. Kennedy. The hit list.
The 70s was a very bloody time for the outfit Chicago.
You want to go through more of the pictures?
Yeah, let me share this one real quick. This is from James's one of James's books that you and Pamela did, Interview with History, to show you guys that there is corruption within all branches, of course the military as well, like we're talking about. This is a General Edward Lansdale, who at that time Deputy Director of Special Operations for the Pentagon. So he's involved. He was involved in all this stuff, working both sides. He was like everybody thought he was on the up and up, but he's working this parallel military and parallel, government. So this is some of the stuff that James is disclosing in his work. Very frustrating. All right. So most of us think that all this stuff is on the up and up and everybody's good, but that's really not the case. So let's go back to the pictures. Jim, you still there?
I'm here.
Jim Scott.
Okay. Like I said, too many Jims.
That's it. So we're gonna
Miles or Scott.
So now we're gonna talk about Charles Nicoletti. The picture that we're showing right now, James and Pamela, is that window that you can kind of see Nicoletti in that one window.
I can speak a little bit on it.
Yeah, go ahead, Jim. Perfect.
Okay, so this is the famous James Ike Altgene's photograph. And if you were to zoom in on the windshield of the limousine, the front one, you can see that John F. Kennedy has already raised his hands to his throat. And then you can see, if you go a little bit to the left, you can see that Conley's head is turned to the right already. You can see the side of his head, his left ear. That's the secret. There you go, right there. And then you see the Secret Service agents, they've heard the shot. And the ones on the right side of that Cadillac, that was called the Queen Mary by the Secret Service. They've started to turn around. And then the building that's from behind is called the Daltex building. And if you look at the fire escape, there's a spotter sitting on the second floor. And the window that's open just below that spotter, no, not right there. The guy sitting on the fire escape. You see him? Right there. All right, yeah. Right below him, the window's open and the bottom window's right there. That's where the shots came from that Charles Nicoletti fired. Johnny Roselli was in that room with him. Jim, you want to tell him about that room?
The room was rented a week in advance. Not rented, but, they contracted in it to have the room remodeled and repainted and everything. And that was the excuse to get the people out of there so the room would be available for us. And tarps were in there, the scalpels were in there for painting and everything. So I was never in the room myself, but Chuck and Johnny got in there. Eugene Halbrating was there for one reason. That was he had the key to the room. It was kept locked. And he opened it. Chuck and Johnny went in. Eugene was allegedly, he locked the door behind him. And when the shots were over, he went and unlocked the door, let them out. And because they didn't want anybody walking in on them while, they was taking the shots or getting ready to do their thing.
Now, Jimmy, was there ever a shot fired from the book depository?
I don't believe there was.
Yeah, I don't either. So, everyone is compartmentalized, guys. You have your mission, you do your thing, and then you move. All right. So that's what all these guys did. They prepped for this. Now, they actually had prepped to actually assassinate Kennedy in Chicago. Is that correct?
Right.
Yeah. But everything didn't, pan out right. So that's the way these missions are. You have multiple, plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D, and you're sometimes you're constantly moving to do your mission. And things.
The reason it didn't pan out in Chicago is Tony Accardo put a lid on it and said, no, it will not happen in Chicago. He said, we won't even be able to work or make a dollar. He says, have to do it somewhere else. Because I had selected the spot, which is Joseph's Restaurant in Hillside, Illinois, alongside the Eisenhower Expressway.
So you were involved in that one too. So yeah.
Oh yeah.
Very interesting. Yep.
But not the plot that was in the fall of 1963. It was the one that was in the spring.
So there's always disinformation involved in these. Now you are obviously involved in it. That's, to me, it's cut and dry. There's no question whatsoever. And anyone that wants to refute this is ridiculous. It's like, night and day. It's
yeah.
Now there's all these other things that they try and leak in. Tell us about that.
Red herrings.
I heard that the French were involved and all kinds of crazy stuff. Tell us about all that silliness that goes on.
Propaganda.
The one party was forget his name, Jerez or something or other. He's supposed to have been their French hitman. But they broke that one down. They proved that he was in Paris that day.
Lucien Sartin.
But they had all kind of names. They like to muddy the water.
Yeah.
Red herrings.
Same thing with 9/11. So they have all these different things that they flush into the system to discombobulate everything.
After 9/11, they had Bin Laden, one of the key players in it, that he was this and that and then the terrorist. But Bin Laden worked for the CIA.
Yeah.
And
Tim Osman.
When they got through, they put a blackout, no planes were flying out of the country that night or anywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
But yet, the one plane that left is bin Laden's family. They flew them out of the family out to keep them safe. Well, there's no flights. How come that family went? Why would they let somebody go when their son was one of the most wanted terrorists in the world?
Good point. Because they're all in on it.
And, all of them in on it. Bin Laden was not killed that night when they went over there and pulled that raid.
Right.
And he wasn't buried at sea. Bin Laden died at the Mayo Clinic up there in Minnesota. He had cancer real bad. They didn't get him out soon enough because they're using him for information. And it shows you they don't care about you. Well, as long as you're making information for them and getting them what they want,
right,
they'll sacrifice your life in a heartbeat to get information.
Well put. Well put. Now, I was there when the person or the entity that was posing as bin Laden was shot by my old team.
Yeah.
Do you know anything about that? Any further insight?
No.
Just from
I was in prison when that happened.
Look at stuff and go, yeah, this is probably the way this went down. That wasn't bin Laden, and whoever was posing as him, he got the bullet. Because there was a case officer, CIA case officer, that interviewed the women, and she was telling me and some other people, we're gonna find out so much. And she came back and she was ashen faced and she was tight lipped and she never said anything. So I was like, okay, that's all bullshit that happened in that place then.
Well, when they interviewed one of the had people from the agency come visit me at Stateville Prison.
Mm-hmm.
Bin Laden, when they entered the room, his AK-47 was against the wall. He was standing there with his hands up, and he was no threat because he didn't want to get shot.
Mm-hmm.
And they shot his wife in the hip because they thought she might be wearing a bomb vest or whatever.
Right.
Since what the hell you shoot somebody in the hip because they're wearing a bomb vest and you're worried she might set it off? You tap them 3 times right in the forehead.
Yep.
We was trained for all that.
Exactly. You stop the nerve
and
action.
You don't. You shoot somebody in the hip, they still set off the bomb.
Yeah. So.
There's that report. There's so many faults in it.
Yep.
And I got that somewhere around here in one of the boxes downstairs. All this other stuff that explains the details on how and why it was not bin Laden.
Incredible.
And it's just like this book here. So far, the stuff that I've talked to my wife, I've wrecked her life because we was going to write a book, Darkest Covert Operations. She decided she don't want to hear no more. She don't want to know nothing else about it because she never understood the type of life that I led.
Yeah.
And a lot of people find it hard to believe when you can walk up and you can kill a guy that you don't even know. People wonder, how can you do that? You got to dislike the guy.
Since Camp Hero. Right?
Yeah. They start training you young. It's just like in NASCAR. When the kids are 4 years old and the fathers are in the racing business, they start training that kid. They put him in a go-kart. He's 4 years old. He can't run very good, but he can drive like hell. He goes from that to the midgets to the legend cars. Then he starts driving in the ARCA series. Then he moves on up to the truck series. Then he goes to the Xfinity series, and then he goes to the Cup series. You have kids 18 years old driving Cup cars that are running 200 miles an hour.
Good point. Good analogy. Yeah. And so for your youth, you were kind of groomed for this, weren't you?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
All the way.
All the way. Yep. Jim, you want to tell us about the game?
I was going to say this might be a good time if gotten a piece of paper and an ink pen for Pam to talk for just a second about the website on how to get the books that we talked about before. and the manuscript on the interview and the copy of primary target JFK. Pam, you want to tell them the website and all your audience that they can write this down?
Yeah.
You can.
Yeah, it's JFK Murder James Files, all one word, .weebly, WEEBLY.com. That's the main one. And then there's the different pages where you can get the book Primary Target, or Interview with History, or support and donate, and go to the part where there's artwork, and that's the same page where you could get the book that Jim Scott was talking about, that was basically a transcript of the 1994 interview with a bunch of research added to it. So it's all in one book, about a little less than 100 pages. That's available, but it's all on the website, jfkmurderjamesfiles.weebly.com. And that's where you can get our book Primary Target, signed copies of that, either soft copy or hard copy, or our older book, Interview with History. That's what is available at the website.
Michael, you might want to show in that email I sent you the picture that's labeled Jackie.
Yeah.
And I think it's actually
crying.
Titled Jackie Crying. That is a piece of artwork that James Files did when he was in prison with pencils, with colored pencils. And it's I think the sheen that is on her hair and the reflections, to me, it's remarkable. I had no idea until I saw
amazing.
that.
I'm glad you guys have this available. I'm gonna purchase this right after this show. So
thank you.
This is going to be.
But there's Jackie, and then there's the JFK and the Texas flag. Those are original artwork from James Files, but they're limited edition, and they come with a certificate of authenticity that James Files signs and thumbprints. So it's directly from him. It's part of history.
I got a funny feeling those pieces of artwork are going to be worth a mint someday. I think they're way underpriced right now, but
we're not trying to be crazy about it, but we're just trying to, get a little thing going for James Files.
Yeah, we're going to help you out here, but like I said, we've been talking about this for I think well over a year. And you guys were working on getting it available, so I think we got it available finally. The printer was, he was busy, but we finally got it all out there.
I would think that they're going to sell out pretty quickly, but
how many are you guys doing total? 100?
It's limited to 100, and there's a certificate that goes with it, so that it won't be any more than that. Yeah, I'm looking forward to mounting that. So that's going to be very beautiful. Thank you. And Tracy's very excited about it too. So thank you guys.
You can share the picture that I sent if you want. If the audience.
Somebody else was like, "Oh, do a GoFundMe." I'm like, "No, we want to sell the artwork. It's part of history, and you have something. It's not just, oh, here, donate, and thank you. But it's a piece of history, and it's a piece of art. So we thought people would like that." That and the books. The books are fantastic. And thank you. Go to the website, guys. There's a lot of information here. You can do some really good research just by reading what Pamela has put into the website. Very, very good. And as you guys see here, there's a nice little collage of pictures that runs. So you can just research so they can kind of see what's inspired going on. To help these guys out. Buy their books till they get signed. And James actually on Primary Target, he's got his fingerprint, in there. So
different page.
That's fantastic. Tell them about your fingerprint in the FBI.
The FBI's got me fingerprinted over 100 times.
Yeah. If they want to make it authentic, it's his real thumbprint.
Hey, Michael, can you imagine?
My life is probably included by the FBI authenticated in most of it. where the government denies knowing me. The FBI admits, yeah, I did this and I did that because of the things they know about.
The criminal activity.
Yeah.
In Chicago, especially.
Yeah, they're probably
Zach Sheldon, like I said, he's a good friend of mine. We were having lunch in Charlie's restaurant on Roosevelt Road in Forest Park. And there was a mob hangout, used to be.
Mhm.
Anyway.
The old armory where they had it bugged with the FBI and Sam Giancana.
Zach leans over and he whispers in my ear and he says, Jesus, he said, I didn't know that you had 28 years with the CIA. And I said, yeah. And then he was telling me, when we used to buy truckloads of meat from you, he says, I didn't even know we was parking them across the street in front of your house.
Wow. Yeah, that's how good the cover-ups are. Yeah, there's many people have no idea, you know, what I've done and probably what you've done. You're going to go to the grave with a lot of stuff, and so will I. But,
yes, I will take the darkest stuff with me to my grave.
Yeah.
Which I figure will be probably within 6 months.
No, it'll be longer.
Yes.
He and Mad Mike are going for the 100.
Well,
we're not done yet.
That's
you know Mad Mike Hoare, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Missionary from South Africa.
If I hadn't been in a federal prison at the time when he pulled the raid on the Seychelles Islands, I'd have been with him.
Oh, wow.
You know about that raid, I imagine.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mad Mike had his office there in Durban, South Africa.
Hey, talking about South Africa, do you want to comment about the Blue Train massacre?
No, that I'm going to stay away from.
You signed an NDA with that.
Yeah. That was highly classified.
Just give them the gist of what it was without going into the gory details.
How do you do it without going into gory details? You wreck the train and you shoot the survivors.
Yeah. The train was derailed with explosives, is my understanding.
Yep.
Hey, okay, Jim, we'll change the subject here for a second. What you're looking at here is a gun out of my collection. And Jim, for years, talked about the prototype of the XP100. This actually is not an XP100. This has a Remington 722 rifle action. And it's got, you'll notice Jim talked about for years that his gun had a wooden stock with finger grips. Well, when Remington went bankrupt, this gun was hidden in their archives. This is the first XP100 prototype. It's got a Remington 722 action, and it exactly like James Files said, it's got a wooden stock with finger grips, and it's chambered in 222 Remington, not 221 Remington Fireball. Notice right at the end of the action, it's got an extremely thin barrel that goes. Now, all the XP100s that came after this, they took the Model 660 action and just marked it XP100. They put a dog leg bolt handle on it. That's like a shop-made raised aluminum it's not a vented rib, but a rib that's got the sights on it, and it's just aluminum. It's not black or anything like that. That is the prototype for the XP100, and I own it. It's in my collection. And I think I sent you the picture of me firing it, and you can see the fireball that comes out of the end of the barrel. They decided to go to a smaller cartridge, the 222 Remington Fireball, and there's other pictures in there of those if you want to scan across those. But that is the very first one made, and I also have XP100 #1.
Amazing.
I think this. By the way, James Files, for anybody in your audience that doesn't know it, he used a CIA issued Remington XP100 to shoot John F. Kennedy. And James, tell him who issued you that weapon.
David Alley Phillips.
Your CIA controller.
Yeah, he was a deputy director, I think, at the time for what they call the Central Hemisphere. This is another gun that's in my collection. This is the normal later model XP100 that was available to the public. They sold for $99, and I had James autograph it for me and date it 11/22/63. And he had a Leopold 3-power scope. I think that one is a 2-powered scope because they're the M7 3-powered scopes that they had in 63. They're very hard to find. And that's a little later model 2-power scope. But that's, if you can imagine that gun, and there's another picture, if you keep flipping through them, there's one that's very similar. That's it right there. That's similar to the one that James used. He carried it in a black briefcase. It had a wooden stock, except it had the finger grooves. George Calora modified the pistol, took the Zytel, the brown Zytel factory stock off, and put the wooden stock on it, and then scope mounted it with a Leopold 3-power scope. And then it was in fitted in the briefcase. And that's what he, after he shot Kennedy, he ducked behind the fence and put the fireball back in the briefcase and walked off. I know you can't see the picture, Jim, but it looks a lot like the one that you actually used to kill JFK.
Yeah.
Now the 22 round is not a very impactful round. It doesn't do as much damage, but this round was a special round that was mercury filled, and once it hit its target, it basically blew up the target, as you saw. So that's a difference. That was very early on where they started having these mercury filled rounds and so forth. I didn't start seeing some of those rounds until in the 80s. So this is very interesting. So this is way ahead of the curve as far as specialized.
But George Calora, known as the Wolfman, he was the one that did the mercury on him.
Wow.
And there's a very interesting story there. Joe West, he tracked me down and he called it, had Stateville had me contact him, and I was on a visit and I refused to answer the phone call to go to it. The next day I called Joe West back and I said, "You wanted to talk to me?" And he said, "Yes." And this point, the JFK case was still pretty well hidden. There wasn't much out there. And he said, "I want to talk to you about JFK." And he mentioned a couple of things. I said, "Wait a minute. If you want to talk to me, get your ass on an airplane, come to Stateville Prison. I will put you on my visiting list, and you come see me here. I will not talk to you about this over the telephone." So he had asked me about that, and he wanted to meet Wolfman and talk to Wolfman. So I told him, I said, "Well, I'll call him and talk to him." So I called Wolfman, and he thought it over for a week or so. He said, "Yeah, it's okay." He said, "If you say the guy's okay," he said, "I'll talk to him." So I said, "Okay, I'll call Joe Weston and give him your phone number, and you guys set up the appointment date." I called Joe West the next day, gave him the information, told him to see Wolfman, and they made a date to see each other. And the day before he was supposed to meet with Joe West, he'd been to the doctor and he had a complete bill of health in good shape, good health. And he's walked out his front door and he had a heart attack. And he died there. He never got to talk to Joe West.
Do you think there was foul play?
I know there was foul play.
Think they used the dart gun on him?
Probably.
Yeah.
Or that.
Well, I have a video of
give him a
that
heart attack.
where they did the. Now that we're talking about that, let me bring that up, and we can show that little clip where they were having they were asking the CIA about this heart attack gun, and they basically said, yeah, we got a heart attack gun, and so I'm gonna play that clip for you guys right now. So that's good, James, because I think a lot of people that get out of line have been hit by the heart attack gun, and they also have.
Oh, yes, definitely a lot of people.
Yeah,
there's a whole book, JFK, the Dead Witnesses.
Heart attack machine, because they've used the heart attack machine on me, and unfortunately, it didn't work on me. It kind of seized my heart up, but I was able to work through it. But helicopter
was flying alongside me and hit me several times. So these are real things that are out there.
Oh, yes.
Let me share the screen. And thanks for validating that, because I know people over the years are like, "You're crazy, Mike," but yeah, this is the real deal, guys.
Also, I had to find one time. They wanted me to find out if there was such a thing as a poison that was undetectable, especially one that seemed to mimic a heart attack, that would kill someone, but it would appear that they had a heart attack. I did find such a thing.
And it would be gone within 60 minutes. The body would show no poison at all.
Yep, and that's what they're talking about that here. Very good. Wow.
Yep.
You know this stuff a lot more than way more than I, because you were involved in the assassination program. Pretty cool.
Mr. Chairman, and a special one was developed which potentially would be able to enter the target without perception.
The poison was frozen into some sort of dart, and then it was shot at very high speed into the person. So when it reached the person, it would melt inside them, and the only thing would be like one little tiny red dot on their body, which was hard to detect. There wouldn't be a needle left or anything like that in the person.
But also the toxin itself would not appear in the autopsy?
Yes, so that there was no way of perceiving that the target was him.
For many.
So there you go, guys. Now at the CIA headquarters, they have a history museum, and you walk through there, and they show you all the different things they've used over the years, over the decades and decades of contraptions that they've made to kill and assassinate people. So they're experts.
Yep.
Well, right after Wolfman had been killed, Joe West had rushed to the hospital, and he was working on his heart. And he had a visitor, somebody come in there to see him, and they injected the poison into the IV line, which finished him off. But right before that happened, his wife and daughter was there, and he wrote them a note. He couldn't talk. He wrote a note. He says, "Quick," he says, "get me out of here. They're trying to kill me." The nurse told him, and I've got this on a email thing that was sent to me. The nurse told him, she said, "Oh, everybody thinks we're trying to kill him." And 45 minutes later, Joe West was dead.
On the court case about exhuming JFK's body to prove that there were more than one shooter died with it.
Well, I told Joe West when he come to see me at Stateville, when he told me he was trying to get John F. Kennedy's body exhumed, I said, "You never get it exhumed." I said, "Not with what you got there for evidence." I said, "What you have to do is go to court and file again and say that you know that, for instance, for sure, that mercury round was used, and there's traces of mercury inside the body of the skull. Have it dug up, and they'll dig it up, but the body won't be there." I said, "What I'm telling you can get you killed." And he was dead within a couple of months after that.
Wow.
But he had the case filed in court, and we've got that in one of our books.
The primary target.
And
that's a good point, James, because we share, like you did, you shared with someone, and that can get people killed. That's another reason why we don't share a lot of stuff. So a lot of people think that, oh, you're just, trying to protect yourself because you're scared they'll come after you. No, we have
I got nothing to lose. They ain't going to get much out of me, you know what I mean? I ain't got that much life left. I'm 84 right now.
Well, another problem with that is, that they'll come after, even if you reveal on your deathbed, they'll still come after your loved ones if you reveal. Yeah. So it's probably never going to be heard from you.
So that's why I've never told Pamela any of my darkest covert operations that I ran. And I ran some of the murkiest ones. I mean, they were really bad.
Man,
some of the things I did, I don't even want my daughters to know I did.
Because we're in a situation now. What are your, since you have obviously some deep insights on Iran, what do you think about the current war right now?
Right now, I was all for it when Trump went in there, but he stopped because he should have taken out their economy right off the bat. Close their seaports down, get rid of the Air Force, get rid of their all economy, do it all in one sweep,
Yeah.
Well, all the plans we got, we get it nailed all in places and shut it down. But he stopped it. He's giving them time to restock and this and that, and bullshitting with them. And for me, I live by 2 rules. Number 1, I don't negotiate. Number 2, I got a problem, I kill it. I live by that, and I survived it.
We think alike. And so I would have done the same thing, but I think there's a bigger picture going on. He's trying to show the world what's going on. And and he's basically getting people in position. So when he does hit them, it's going to be like you're talking about. It's going to hammer them like no one's ever been hammered ever before in history. So I think I said all along there's going to be boots on the ground. There's no way, because these guys are animals. They're savages. We're going to have to kill them.
Well, you got 15,000 Marines already there, waiting to be launched inland to go on land.
Oh my God.
15,000, That's just counting the Marines. That's not counting the 82nd Airborne that's there. That's not counting SEAL teams that are there.
Exactly. And it's not counting, probably have within all of these cities and so forth, special groups that are ready to cooperate and help and, make things happen a lot faster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a tragedy what happened to SEAL Team 6.
Yeah, that really is. The kind of like the evil side of the government. Decided.
Obama should have never made them public and put it out there on the TV screen ahead of him at the White House through that, because this is endangering their families and everything.
Yep. Yeah, very, very tragic. And then the helicopter going down. I'm still very suspect about that, but I know I'm going to talk to some people that gave them some deeper insight. There was a woman that was in one of the special aircraft that can see what's going on the ground, and she said that she saw them dying slowly. And I'm like, no, I don't think so. Not after what I heard from Jim Scott. Jim, I don't know if you can reveal what you heard about the helicopter.
Are you talking about Extortion 17?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so actually, one of my pilots flew in that squadron. I'm the safety director of High Voltage Aviation now, and we have MD 500 helicopters, and we do power line work. And I'm not going to expose the identity of this pilot, but he was in that squadron. The Extortion Squadron was a Colorado National Guard squadron. They weren't the 160th, and they were flying in direct support of the SEALs and the other special ops guys that were flying in there. 2 things he told me interesting was, one, about the crash of Extortion 17. He's seen the video. It was being videoed because they had the drone was up videotaping the entire thing. Yep. There was a guy with an RPK machine gun about 5 stories up behind it, and it was zeroed on the LZ. And actually, when Extortion 7 got shot down, that was the 3rd helicopter that had flown in that LZ and had been damaged. But anyway, when the pilot in command, I'm not going to mention his name, but he flew the CH-47. He was a instructor pilot for the high altitude mountain ops training out in Colorado. And they fly a very steep confined area landing approach. It's a slow, gradual, controlled, so that if you run out of power available, you could, turn away and go down the mountain and, not crash into the mountain, because landing at really high altitudes in a helicopter, you can run out of power. So he's flying this slow approach. And when he got kind of near the edge of it was an LZ on one side on the mountaintop and then a cliff on the left, one of the Afghanis fired an RPG, and it came up and it struck one of the retreating blades. A fluke chance. In the movie, it shows it coming in the back ramp, like coming in the aircraft, with the ramp down in the. It didn't do that. It actually hit one of the retreating blades about 6 feet from the tip and cut the blade off. And with that loss of lift through that blade, it caused a major imbalance of the aft rotor head. So they would have lost lift, and then the back end would have squatted down, and then it basically fell down the cliffside and tumbled and crashed into a rocky intermittent stream at the bottom of the cliff. Almost as soon as it hit it was full of jet fuel, almost, just what they had burned to get there.
Exploded.
And there was a huge fire and explosion. It burned for 12 hours. And almost at the very second where the fire went out, it started raining. And it rained really hard. And that little dip at the bottom of that cliff was in an intermittent stream. And my guy said that the helicopter was under 12 feet of water for about a week.
Jeez.
So there was no way they could have rescued those guys. And I think they did DNA tests on their corpses. They couldn't even recognize anybody. They were all burned beyond recognition. But that's what happened. RPG cut the blade off, and then it fell and crashed and then burned. And then it was under flood waters, and they were able to recover that stuff like a week later. And one thing I wanted to point out, this book entitled The Inheritance, written by Christopher and Michelle Fulton. This book is about the Cartier wristwatch that John F. Kennedy was wearing when he was assassinated. When he was hit, either in the back of the throat, whichever one it was, and he raised his hand, he exposed his wristwatch. And when Jimmy's bullet that George Calora made hit him in the temple and splashed, they got mercury on the wristwatch. The wristwatch was given to Robert F. Kennedy. It was an 18-karat gold round Cartier wristwatch, kind of a dress watch. It had a leather band, and it got mercury on the crystal. Okay, there's striations and mercury on it. Nobody knew what that was. And I think, if I'm correct, 10 days after the operation, Jim, you can comment after this. I finished this comment. The only people that knew that Kennedy had been hit in the head with a mercury bullet was Jimmy, James Files, George Calora, and David Atlee Phillips. When Jim got debriefed at 63rd and Lawler, the CIA aircraft hangar at Midway Airport, it was a taped debriefing about how he killed Kennedy. He mentioned that he used a special bullet that Wolfman made for him for the XP-100. When that happened, later on, years later, everybody wanted to know whether, the government wanted to seize it because they say it was evidence. You know what I mean? And really what they're doing is they're trying to cover up what happened. But Robert F. Kennedy gave that wristwatch to his illegitimate son. Okay. And then that guy sold the wristwatch at Sotheby's later for like $1 million. But anyway, they tested that wristwatch and it had mercury on the face. And I think that's one of the pieces of evidence that absolutely proves, because I believe it was in the 1994 debriefing that Jimmy explained that he'd used a special mercury bullet to kill President Kennedy, but nobody else knew that. And how in the world could he have managed to, all those years later, put mercury on John F. Kennedy's wristwatch when it had been in the family's custody? So that's a piece of evidence that most people don't know about. But this book, The Inheritance, explains everything. And it proves that Jimmy was telling the truth, and there would have been mercury. And that's why they buried him at sea, because he's not in his grave at Arlington.
No.
Jim, have you still got a copy of the police report on where the FBI was, where the kid got arrested when the FBI went there after the gun?
I do.
Around Lake Beach area?
Yeah, I do. And it's what happened was they didn't note on the arrest report that they seized the pistol. That's the actual gun that Jim used to kill Kennedy. But
they only registered the ammunition.
That's right. They said that they'd seized a box of ammunition, and they said it was 221 Remington Fireball, which we know that's what it was. Before, a lot of people thought it was a 222 Remington. When Jim explained, somehow the story got screwed up a little bit in the beginning, but Jim knew that the prototype was made in 222 Remington, the very first ones.
Well, when I said 221, everybody thought I misspoke because most people had never even heard of a fireball, or they had never heard of a bolt action pistol, single shot, and they took it for granted that I gave the wrong number. But it's 221. I stood by it. They found 222s, and they accused me of changing the number on it. No, the whole thing was a 221, and I've never changed that story from day one.
The 220, it was actually made first in 222 Remington, but the ones they fielded and was sold to the public and the CIA got, they were all 221 Remington Fireball, and it's a slightly shorter case.
We got ordered 1,000. It's the agency ordered 1,000, 500 for the agency and 500 for the FBI.
Who knows where those guns are today? But
yeah,
the ones that are really collectible are the ones that have a serial number that's lower than 1,500, 4-digit serial number. I own number one.
Right. So let me jump a little bit here. Now, Jimmy, I know you took some of the guys that were part of a Marilyn Monroe operation. You took them to the airport and they flew out.
Right.
Now, could they have actually injected poison into Marilyn Monroe to, basically?
That I don't know for sure because I didn't ask. I just delivered them to the airport and I picked them up. And what happened out there, I don't know because I couldn't comment on it because I wasn't there to see it. And what other people tell stories about, it's hard for me to believe half of what they tell me.
Yeah.
But you know yourself, what they taught you, the agency, you believe nothing that you hear and you only believe half of what you see.
Absolutely. Yep.
And just like the other part, character assassination precedes physical assassination.
That's true. So on those same lines, did they character assassinate JFK to you guys so that you would be more apt to shoot him?
Well, before we killed him, they blamed him for the Bay of Pigs failure and everything else. And even I blamed him for the Bay of Pigs failure because he didn't send in the support that the Cubans needed.
Right.
Hide that treason.
And they changed the landing for the invasion because we had a nice place picked out, and then they put it at the Bay of Pigs area. They went to Chandler's Bay, which is a swamp.
Yeah,
that was
James
planned to fail from the beginning.
Yeah, there you go. I was going to see if he would say that. Yeah.
Say that
what they
time.
wanted to do was send in the Marines. Start a war.
They were talking about sending in the Marines?
Do what now?
Yeah, they had Marines on ships right off the shore, and they wanted to do that, and they had a couple of airplanes that were painted up like Cuban airplanes. They were like B-25s or something, and they flew them. I can't remember where they came out of. Maybe
I think it was Guatemala.
Yeah, Guatemala, Nicaragua, in there. Yeah, and they flew in there, and
they asked for some air support, and he wouldn't give it to them.
Yeah, it was designed to fail, and then they were going to go to Kennedy and say, "Hey, it's not working out right. We need the Marines, and we need this other support." And he told them right from the beginning. He said, "No, I'm not. If you can do it with mercenaries and the Cubans and be successful, do it. But I'm not going to get." He's kind of like Trump. He was kind of a peace president. He didn't want the Vietnam War. And, as Jim pointed out before, they already had these big contracts with Brown and Root to do the port, build the port and build airports and all these, millions of dollars in contracts.
Wow.
Yeah. Now it's like Raytheon. Yeah.
We when we overthrew the Chilean government, we took Allende out of power to put Pinochet in. We ended 80 years of decent government. Not good government, but decent government. But we were getting our ass kicked down there regular. And we had 3,000 cutouts flown in from Argentina. The 3,000 cutouts, they were all like Germans, that they were good soldiers, but we was having a rough time down there.
Now, do you think President Trump right now is, it looks like we're going to take over Cuba. Do you think, because President Trump has basically said, many times he's like JFK, cleaning up JFK maybe. But,
yeah.
Yeah. Do you think that this is kind of, we've had, ever since then, we've had problems with Cuba, and you've talked about it on my show, how they do drug running, all kind of crazy stuff, sadly, into America. But do you think that because we didn't take care of them then, that was a huge mistake, and now we're having to do it again?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it was a mistake the first time.
Yeah.
But we believed that the Cubans would rise up, the population after the invasion we had there would take over, and we'd have all kind of support. We didn't have any, but I didn't find out until I believe it was 77, either 75 or 77. We were en route to Chile, Michael Vernon Townley and me and a couple of Cubans, young kids. And we was going down there to assassinate Castro. When the kids got appendicitis, we had to put him in the hospital in Peru. And Michael called me up this. I said, well, we got to scrub this operation. We're shutting out. Scrub it. Oh. I said, why? I said, hell, I could outshoot either one of them. Where they had the camera mounted inside the TV cameras. I mean, the gun was mounted inside the TV cameras and everything. And Michael got me off the side, told me, he said, we're going to kill Castro. I said, no, what the hell are we going for? He said, we're going down there. He said, we're going to, when the kids got up to shoot Castro, he said, I was going to intercede, shoot both them. He said, I would also be, which Michael Vernon Townley worked for the DINA, and he was lieutenant colonel, and he also worked for the agency. But he said he'd be a hero of both parties, the secret police in Chile and also the agency. And at that time, when it was over with, and after we had the assassination, there in Embassy Row, Marito, his wife, she said, my husband for the agency, for the CIA, was a killing machine. She says, but now he is a talking machine for the press.
Crazy.
I like Michael Vernon Townley, but his wife tried to get me to kill him while we were down there in Chile.
So you remember Masood in Afghanistan? He was killed by a camera. Do you think?
Yeah.
You think the CIA was involved in that?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Wow. Holy smokes. See, that's the beauty of these conversations, James. Because we can bounce stuff back and forth, and you can answer some questions that have been hanging for decades. Wow.
Yeah.
Huh. I think Charlie Kirk was killed by a camera gun. The guy was behind him to the right.
And I don't know about because I was locked up, so I couldn't sit there.
No.
Yeah.
I'm talking about
Charlie Kirk is hunting. But like I say, that I didn't follow it. I don't know that much about Charlie Kirk or anything else. But
you were in bed.
Yeah, I was in bed. Anyway, but that I know nothing about it. Couldn't comment on.
Last September.
No, what I'm commenting on it. I wasn't trying to get you to comment on it.
I think it's all bullshit. I think the whole thing is bullshit. That's my thoughts on it.
Yeah, maybe.
Kind of like Trump getting shot in the air. I think it's all bullshit. It was all show. And I think Charlie Kirk's assassination was all show. But maybe I'm open. Maybe not. But black blood coming out of your throat. I mean, that's not normal.
Yeah.
All right, so let's any other things because we might have to start wrapping it up. I got another show to do here in a little bit. But
hey,
one thing. National Archives letter proving that.
Okay, Jim, did you tell Mike about the archives letter? I think you get copies, don't you?
No, I didn't.
Now, the last batch of JFK files that was released within those files, my social security number was in there.
Wow.
And it got released. And we
Damn.
received a letter from them notifying me that my social security number had been made public, and to let them know we could change it if need be or whatever. And then from the Veteran Affairs, I got a letter from them under the name Sutton about my social security number. But the social security number was the same under both names.
Interesting. Wow.
And we've got
Hey,
the
Jim,
letters here.
can you make comments about just in general terms, tell everybody what happened at Chappaquiddick? Because that links the Kennedys. You know, the CIA didn't want another Kennedy in the office, and he was going to run for president.
Teddy.
I was in Florida at the time, living down there by Homestead. And Frank Sturgis, he come by the house, and he says, Jim, he said, do me a favor. He says, yeah, what do you need? He says, you got my back. He said, I got something I got to do. And I said, I always got your back. I said, you've had mine. You saved my ass a few times. And he said, you want to know what it is? I said, I don't care what it is. So we went up there, and we met Howard Hunt there once we got there. And they killed the girl. She didn't have any water in her lungs, so she didn't drown. The reason she had air to breathe, they tried to make the story where she got in the front seat to the back seat where there's a pocket of air. And like I said, that dog don't hunt. Because if she could get from the front seat to the back seat, the window in the car was open. Why didn't she go out the window and the water wasn't that deep? Because the car wasn't submerged all the way.
Yeah.
The roof of the car was still sticking up. And Howard Hunt put a bag over her head and killed her while Frank Sturgis held her arms by her side. And he didn't grip her arms or anything. He just had his hands open, the palms of them, and pressed them against her side. And she couldn't break loose. Ted Kennedy brought her out there because he thought that she was going to be talked to, that people wanted to talk to her. And Mary Jo had no idea she was going to be killed. And Sturgis and Hunt, the two that killed her, I stood there and watched. I was guilty as the rest of them. But she had no idea what was going on. The only thing that was concerned me was I drove the car off the bridge and tried to flip the car, but the water was too shallow right there.
Now you said
before I drove the car off the bridge, I had the windows down so I could get out. Because it's very hard to open a car door when you're underwater and the water's pressing against the car.
Yeah, and she was already dead in the back seat, right?
She was dead in the back seat before I ever drove the car off the bridge.
That's Mary Jo Kopechne. And then Ted, he was not in the car when it went off the bridge. He watched it happen.
Yeah,
which is ironic because it is news.
The reason why he waited so long is because you guys had to get the ferry off, so they made him wait.
The ferry didn't start till I don't know 6 o'clock or 6:30 that morning. And Howard Hunt took Teddy off, and he told him exactly what to say. And Ted Kennedy was scared to death of Howard Hunt.
Now, are you talking about Howard Hunt?
Howard Hunt, yeah.
Yeah.
Holy smokes. He was involved in that?
Yep.
He was
he was in Watergate.
And CIA, Watergate
scandal. So was James. James was at Watergate.
Wow.
Yeah, I wasn't involved in Watergate. I was just sitting outside in the car at Barry Seals. And we had the second team go in. The first team was to go in there already. I felt bad about it because I was letting Frank Sturgis go to jail when I could have warned him, but I wouldn't dare break the contract or breach your promise with the agency. And Barry Seals asked me if I was going to go with the second team. And I said, hell no. And he says, why? I said, you want me to shoot somebody? I'll go in here and shoot them. I said, but I ain't going in there to steal nothing. But we were stealing the training film. So what it was all about was the training film that we made at Lake Pentarium, where we was jumping out of the back of a deuce and a half. George Bush was there, Lee Harvey Oswald, Jerry Hemmings, all of us. And we rolled out of the back of the deuce and a half, took position, was guarding the outer perimeter, and yet we're all looking back at the camera. So the camera got a good shot of all of us, you know. We all wanted to be movie stars, I guess, by looking into the camera.
They wanted some dirt on you in case they needed to like control you.
And they got the film back. It was the night they killed Barry Seals.
Wow.
They shot his car full of holes, a white Cadillac he was in. I don't know why he put his head down over the steering wheel and just accepted it. Me, I would have had it in reverse, and I didn't give a shit who I run over. I'd have been getting out of there one way or the other.
Oh yeah, me too. Yeah. Huh.
But Barry just gave it up and laid his head down on the steering wheel, and they shot the hell out of him. Over 100 rounds fired into that Cadillac.
Jesus.
The interesting thing was when we first started talking about this was that Barry was in that first picture with the Operation 40 group, you know?
Right. Yep.
And then so they're running drugs into Mena, Arkansas many, many years later. And that's the credibility. And he's at Watergate with Barry Seal. So you got these Operation 40 guys that were in Mexico City already planning to kill Kennedy in January of 63. And then here they are up in the 70s running a soft coup to throw Richard Nixon out of office, because that was a coup just like Kennedy. It was just a soft coup. They didn't kill him. You know, the 5 of the 6 guys that got arrested at Watergate were CIA employees. And not only that, but tell them, Jimmy, about how E. Howard Hunt's wife was killed in the airplane.
Well, with this one guy there, called him Johnny Bench. What was his last name, hon? You remember that? Metcalf, yeah, Johnny Metcalf. Her Metcalf. He was put on the plane to kill both of them, Dorothy Hunt and
Michelle Clark.
Michelle Carter. And the airplane, when they put a bladder inside the tanks, the plane registered had plenty of fuel and it didn't. And so they got the port to turn around there at Midway. And so they went in circle and come back in for second approach. And that's when the plane went out of gas and they crashed at 72nd Walcott. I was home in Broadview, Illinois at the time the plane went down. And usually it's a 25 to 30 minute drive from there to the 72nd Walcott from where I lived. And that damn made it like, 12 minutes. I had the blood out of my car lid, flashing and everything else. I was blowing the horn. And I was driving like crazy. And I got there and the crime scene was up. I mean, they had the tape up that says crime scene. And I asked one of the guys, I showed them my ID. They said, your people are over there. I wonder what the hell's going on. I said, I come there not rescuing the people. They said they're searching for a briefcase. And Michelle, she knew the phone and all would be Dorothy, she knew the phone would be tapped. So she went down the corner, used the payphone, called Michelle and told her what she had and told her what kind of briefcase to go get. And they'd make the swap on the airplane and fly into Chicago. And so Dorothy had no idea they'd have the payphone tapped. So the agency knew about it, so they planned that, and they put Johnny Metcalf on there. And Dorothy, it was either I don't remember, he killed one of the women, and he didn't know the plane was sabotaged, but he'd killed one of them, but the plane was down, and he had gotten into the tail of the plane, which is the safest place. Man, he was very upset when he found out the agency tried to wipe him out too after killing Dorothy and Michelle.
See,
Dorothy he was a very unhappy person.
E. Howard Hunt got Dorothy to. He had a stash of materials, and he was thrown in jail.
He had already blackmailed the Nixon government for $1 million to pay for the Cubans, so that they could look while those guys were in jail.
Yeah,
Hunt wanted to take care of their families, so then he tried to blackmail Nixon the second time around to turn him loose. Nixon wouldn't do it, so Howard Hunt, he had his wife Dorothy go there and go retrieve this material, the briefcase and everything. And he was making it popular, and Michelle was going to blow the story wide open. And it had all kind of shit and everything in there. A lot of operations.
So the tradecraft.
I'm getting pretty well tired and beat. I'm having a hard time even thinking now, talking.
Okay.
But I'm gonna have to lay back down because Cindy took a lot out of me.
Well, thank you.
But I want to thank you for having us on today and talking about it and going down memory lane. You know what I mean? So,
Well, thank you,
Mike. Thank you for your service. Because I got a good idea what you went through, and we've walked the same paths. Let's put it this way: we travel some of the same ground.
Definitely.
Have a good
All right,
night.
I don't know if you have nightmares or not, but I still have bad dreams.
Yeah.
Pam, call me tomorrow.
Okay. Talk to you later, brother.
Okay, brother. Call me before the race
Have
tomorrow.
a good day.
All right.
Thank you, you guys.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
You want to go for another minute or two?
Yeah, let's share that website one more time.
Okay. It's their website is JFK Murder, MURDER, James Files, JAMESFILES .weebly.com, and Weebly is spelled WEEBLY, 2 E's. So it's JFK Murder, James Files .weebly, WEEBLY.com. And you can donate if you want to help them. They're struggling financially. They have been for a long time. You know, when James got out of prison in 2016 after doing 25 years, when Hillary Clinton tried to kill him, he had nothing, and Pam came across. There's books. There's the Primary Target JFK. That one right there. You can get that autographed. You can get this transcript. And I think they're looking for a donate. I think it says it on there, but I think this one is like $100. It's 90 some pages. Their book autographed. We used to be $80 autographed, and he put his thumbprint in there. I got him to put his trigger finger in some of mine, which I thought was kind of a cool twist. That a tradecraft where they killed. I'll mention that too. There's a limited number of those colored pencil things that he did in a prison cell at Statesville. It's Jackie crying after the assassination, and that reflection, the sheen that you see on her hair, is actually drawn in there. That's not a reflection of light on the picture. It's really incredible. I mean, as simple as it is, and it's got his autograph. And I think that and a couple of the other things like the book with his autograph are going to be worth a lot of money someday. Can you imagine having a book written by John Wilkes Booth on how he killed Abraham Lincoln and what the situation was, the political situation, that was autographed by John Wilkes Booth with his fingerprint in it? What that would be worth today, you know? But going back to the plane crash, you know, they had arrested E. Howard Hunt at the Watergate and thrown him in jail. And he, you know, got convicted and got sentenced to years and everything. And they were letting him rot in prison. And the CIA kind of eats its own, you know what I mean? And I know, you know, that some guys get treated rotten, or they'll go do some very heroic things. And then the next thing they do, they'll kill them some kind of way so they can't talk about it, you know? But what they do is you take an airplane, and when it's refueled, you stick a bladder in the fuel tank and inflate it and seal it off. And then you fill the tank with fuel, but most of the tank is this bladder of air. So the fuel gauges in the cockpit say that the aircraft is full of fuel, but maybe 2/3 of the fuel tank is empty because it's an air bladder. It's just a trade craft way. So like if somebody's flying, over mountains or over ocean or something like that, and you want to make them, then when they crash and the aircraft burns, that little bladder burns up in the fire and there's no evidence of it. And it takes a really, really good investigator, especially if it smacks the water. Even when you ditch an airplane, like the way the Malaysian airplane was flown, controlled, they have a thing called an uninterruptible co-pilot. And that airplane was flown with the passengers in it that were dead. If you want to do a show on that, I can brief you on that. That airplane was taken over. Some of the Boeing aircraft and some of the Airbus aircraft can be flown by what's called an uninterruptible co-pilot. And you can't, the people in the airplane can't control it. They take control of it with the computer. The flight controls don't work anymore. And if you wanted to fly airplanes into a building, you could do that if you wanted to. But the Malaysian airplane took off and it flew up toward Vietnam. And then it went up to it ascended to something like 42,000 feet. And it stayed up there only 15 minutes. And then it came back down almost to the surface of the water and flew out over toward the Indian Ocean and disappeared. And my understanding is they were flying it with the uninterrupted co-pilot. But what you do is you take the airplane to altitude and then you turn off the pressurization system and everybody dies from hypoxia in about 2 or 3 minutes. So now everybody on the plane is dead. You got no witnesses. You fly it to wherever you want it. You can land it, automatic landing on a runway, maybe Diego Garcia, maybe someplace, one of those military airfields near Midway Island or whatever, someplace. And you land the airplane and then you can do whatever you want. But the thing had in the cargo hold, it had about a ton of stuff that had been stolen. One of those RQ-9 Reaper drones that had been ambushed when they were moving it from the field to Bagram to be flown back to the States. And the Taliban got a hold of it and they sold it to the Chinese for $9 million. And somehow they got it to Malaysia. And that flight was going to Beijing with that controller unit in it. And they knew it. And they wanted it back. So that's how they did it. They basically, they hijacked the
9/11 too?
What's that?
Do you think that's how they did 9/11 too?
It's possible. It's probable, actually. Yeah. And I know I've got a friend also, this is totally off the subject of James Files, but he worked on the World Trade Centers. They had a contract. He was working for a company that was told they were installing a 138 kV trunking system. And they went in there, and for weeks there were different companies that had 7 or 8 floors apiece. It was completely compartmentalized, but they were drilling holes in the elevator shafts to mount this trunking system, and they were knocking holes in the concrete floor. He said big enough to put sheets of plywood through. And they worked on it only at night from 11 at night to 4 or 5 in the morning, and then they had to leave. They did it for weeks, and both buildings were prepped, and he left. They were supposed to be at the FBI building in St. Louis the next Monday. And then the next day when it hit, they were told that the contract at the building, the Federal St. Louis, had been canceled, and they were given their checks. And one of my buddies told me, he said, well, we've got our tool trailers and all this stuff out here, all the tools and all that stuff and the trailers that belong to the company. What do you want us to do with that? And they said, just keep it. Wow. How about that? Yeah. So he went home with a trailer full of tools. And then the next day he sees the building is run into by airplanes, apparently, and then the building falls into its shadow, straight down. And you got these little puffs coming up the side of the building as it's falling. And everybody that sees that knows anything about implosion, demolition of buildings. It's so blatantly obvious that the building was prepped ahead of time and blown up. And the steel beams were cut with a new type of nanothermite. And then they cordoned off the area, and they had, I think it was, what's the name of that company? We work with them once in a while. something in Jennings. But anyway, they had the contract to do the cleanup, and they get in there and get all the concrete and the steel and stuff out of there. And supposedly it was bought for scrap by China or something like that. So there basically was no investigation. And they didn't want anybody to see that steel because you could see where it had been cut by a thermite charge.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that would have been easy to detect. But isn't that funny that they dropped those buildings and they didn't do an investigation? Killed 3,000 people.
No, what we know about how these things work.
Say that again.
So it sounds like I'm doubling here for some reason. But it's a problem that we know that happens with all these bad things. So.
Let me mute my thing. I'm wondering if we're.
So how about no? It's still the same. All right, let's call it. So great show. We'll have to get together and do another one.